I'm Scott Stevens, Goldsboro City Manager here for our February monthly update. It seems like there's a lot going on, and these things keep coming back quicker and quicker to me. I hope most of you are enjoying the 60-degree and sunny February days. I know I am. I have heard from a few that are hopeful for the ice and snow, so maybe they'll have a taste of that before we get into springtime. I want to mention a couple things. Trash in our community continues to be an issue. I've had at least a number of complaints this year that people say it's worse than they've ever seen it. It's incumbent upon all of us as residents to do our part in cleaning up in our neighborhoods, in our businesses, and then trying to report those that are throwing trash. And again, encourage and others to not litter in our community. We're putting resources in terms of picking it up, but I know we'll pick up a section of a street and 2 weeks later it's just about as bad. And ultimately, you pay for that. The more the city does for that, the more you're going to pay in terms of cost. So I think it's really incumbent that we all try to do our part and clean up the areas we see. Again, it does present Goldsboro in a much better light if the trash is not littering our roadways. Speaking of that, we have the North Carolina Main Street Conference coming. March 16th to 18th, so a lot of activity going on in our downtown and around the city, trying to make Goldsboro look as good as it can. That conference will bring over 500 visitors to our community from across the state. There'll be mayors, managers, council members, and other folks interested primarily in downtown development or redevelopment from across the state here in Goldsboro for the annual conference. So again, we're trying to do all we can to make it look as good as we can, but it really will take all of us to make Goldsboro look its best. The council has authorized a significant amount of money, $50,000 or so, in doing improvements in our downtown area. Many of those improvements will benefit us for the long term, meaning painting of poles, fixing of sidewalks, repairing of parking lots, things that we should be doing and would ultimately get to. And our real push has been to have most of those things done ahead of the Main Street Conference. One, so it looks good for those visiting, but more importantly, so that it's good for us as the spring gets here and more of us are in our downtown. We also shared with council this week, we have been asked to remove and have remove the felony question on our application. There are a lot of folks that have seen that as an impediment to being hired. I would argue that it has not been an impediment, but I think we are just trying to remove that perceived impediment. Again, department heads have reviewed applications. Typically speaking, those that haven't been sent to the department didn't meet the job qualifications. And again, I know in the past that we have debated with an applicant that had a past felony conviction if they served their time and we felt that they were able to perform the job duties, we have made those job offers. So I have not seen that as an impediment, but I know those from the outside have felt that or have at least expressed that to us. And so by removing that question, I hope to remove the perceived impediment. But it's not lowering of our standards. We still will run background checks as we have been doing on all the applicants that we intend to hire. And if there's something strange in the background, we'll discuss it with the applicant or make a decision how to move forward based on time and circumstance surrounding what we find on a background check. So just if you have any questions on that, please don't hesitate to call me. I'm happy to talk more about that if it concerns you. I am in the middle of reviewing our police chief applications. We received 28 applications for the position of chief. Quite a few of them appear to be very qualified, and so I'm working through narrowing that list down to a pool of 5 or 6 that we could run a hiring process at the end of February. My goal is to involve people from the community, probably 12 or 15, some in law enforcement, some in city government, some from community services or areas that we interact with, to help me in making the best selection for the chief for the Goldsboro Police Department. Ultimately, it is my decision as your manager, but I do think it's a visible enough position. It touches enough parts of our lives that having that community input from those other individuals that either have or will be asked to serve toward the end of February just gives me better insight and different viewpoints. So again, my ultimate goal is to hire the best chief for our department, and I hope to be able to make that announcement sometime in early March. Again, running a hiring process at the end of February with a decision made sometime in March. Downtown interest is still, I say it at an all-time high. I don't know if I can say that with absolute certainty, but I will tell you the interest in downtown continues to be high. We have a young couple that's closed on 3 buildings on John Street with the intention of making upstairs apartments and downtown tap room and restaurant on the downstairs. Again, a very good investment behind City Hall on John Street. We have another investor looking at a downtown grocery store / restaurant in the downtown area. Has made an offer on a piece of property or 2 properties. I hope that they are successful in negotiating that and bringing that to fruition. We have a number of interest in downtown apartments, continuing maybe new construction as well as renovation of downtown apartments, so a lot of excitement there. And again, every week we're hearing good news of people looking to move into Goldsboro's downtown. And again, across the community development is great, but the city has put a renewed focus in downtown, and so that's where we spend a lot of time and effort working with businesses and trying to help them get situated and understand what being downtown means. So again, a lot of excitement throughout the community, but downtown in particular. I do want to mention our Parks and Rec staff. All of our departments are looking for outside funding all the time, and there are lots of different varying ways that we can receive outside funds, some in the form of grants, and our Parks and Rec department was successful recently in securing a $250,000 grant. It requires matching funds, so it requires $250,000 from the city to receive that grant, but they're using the money that we're spending on the W.A. Foster Center in Mena Well Park for additional improvements within Mena Well Park. So we didn't have to come up with another $250,000 to match that state grant. We had the funds already committed to the W.A. Foster Recreation Center. This grant just complements that and allows us to do some additional work within Mena Well Park. So I do want to thank our staff, and you'll see more, hear more about that as we go forward with that project and moving that grant into production into the field. Greenways, we are rebidding the New Hope Greenway section that extends from the church there near Hare Road on New Hope Road. It will extend it almost all the way out to Wayne Memorial Boulevard and connect it to the Greenway that was built behind Wayne Community College and the hospital. Again, we also have some stream restoration work going on just north of Royal Avenue along Stony Creek up to Quail Park. The contractor put in a fairly substantial rock trail that he could work from to do the stream restoration work. We're trying to work with the contractor, the Clean Water Management Trust Fund, and others to leave that stone in place and then to try to accelerate a DOT project that would actually pave that Greenway segment as well. So if we can leave the rock bed in place, it saves our current contractors some expense, but it also provides a very stable bed for our future Greenway. So it makes a lot of sense to be able to do that and then trying to accelerate DOT paving. They had some funding in out years set aside for Goldsboro, and we're trying to see if we can accelerate that. Construction of our future W.A. Foster is still scheduled to open in March. I toured the building this week. We will take our new council members on a facility tour very soon and carry them to those facilities as well. But again, really, really nice facility. I hope that and expect the community will enjoy it. The gymnasium is significantly bigger. The meeting rooms and spaces really divides the adults from the kids, so that right now we currently run it where you have adult hours and then later you have kids hour, trying not to mix adult and youth too much. In this new center, we'll have separate rooms and separate spaces, so you won't have to have separate hours for adults and youth. You can have all served in this facility at one time. And so, again, an exciting time for our Parks and Rec staff, and I hope for the community as well. And again, that facility is still on schedule to open in March. Our Goldsboro Event Center, which is the former Goldsboro Country Club. If you have not ridden by that location at Slocum and Eden, which is near the City Municipal Golf Course, I would encourage you to do so. We have changed the look from the outside very significantly in removing trees and fencing and trying to open it up to the community. We are going to re-landscape the site. We've made some parking lot improvements. And then interior-wise, we are finishing the renovations, and the bathrooms really look good compared to where they were. We are basically painting the walls and doing new floor coverings. The ballroom in the Goldsboro Event Center is being refinished this week. The flooring or carpet should go down in the next week or two. And again, I hope to hold our council retreat there at the end of February in the event center that I think it'll be close enough to being complete at that time, and then we'll have a community opening as soon as it's ready. And I hope that will be scheduled for late February, early March. And again, so we've got a list of events tentatively scheduled where people have an interest in it. I would encourage you to call the Paramount Theater. They're the ones currently taking our reservations for that facility. We are not booking events yet, but we are holding a list of those that have an interest for events in the future, and I do expect that sometime March or later it will be available to be booked and reserved. And again, very nice space, whether it's family reunions, parties, wedding events, or any other business kind of meetings you can think of. I think it will be a very good venue for that in terms of meeting space, lighting, acoustics, and your surroundings. So I would encourage you to take a look at that and do ride by the site and see what we're doing there. We have had a group approach City Council about the future use of the existing W.A. Foster Center. Council at least seems to be interested in us pursuing that. So for those that have an interest in that center, I would encourage you to talk to or call my office. We do have a group of interested citizens about how they might save, one, the history of it, and then put it back into beneficial use. Not so much as a rec center, but it's still a place to help children within the neighborhoods. And again, a lot of good ideas. It's just trying to, how do we help an old building that needs quite a bit of work in terms of dollars and operation costs to be productive in the community and not be a negative to the neighborhood that it's in. So more to come on that as we go forward. Street resurfacing, I think that's always an interest to people, particularly this time of year where we've had some cold, freezing weather and you see more potholes. I would certainly encourage you to report potholes to my office. We will report those, whether they're city potholes to repair or DOT potholes to repair. But with that said, the city does have over $700,000 in street resurfacing under contract with Barnhill Construction. I believe they have moved on site this week. Weather permitting, you'll see some resurfacing work, or at least preparation for that, going on within the community. Again, it is weather dependent, so colder, if we have cold weather, that will again be halted, but I'd expect once the weather breaks that they'll be here, and in the coming months you will see many of our streets that have been needing resurfaced. Still more to be done, but those that are under contract, I think you'll see some work on those very soon. I mentioned the City Council facility tours. Again, it really takes a day and a half to fully get through all of our fire stations, public works, public utilities, and our Parks and Rec facilities. There are just a lot of them when you're trying to travel to each one and spend a few minutes looking through. Those tours are scheduled for February 8th and 9th, and so we'll be spending the afternoons of those days with the City Council, and particularly the new members, but open to all members, just making sure they know when we're talking about a fire station or a park that they've had an opportunity to see that. And it does take some effort to get around and see all of our facilities, so we'll be doing that with them February 8th and 9th. Our retreat that I mentioned, or City Council retreat, is currently scheduled for February 24th and 25th. Those dates may change, but I believe it will be that same week. We're working topic-wise with Council of drafting that agenda for them. And again, just to share with you some of the things that they'll see, I will have a facilitator come in for a few hours, really around 5 hours, and spend some time helping them. How do you have relationships as a board and working with each other, trying to get their goals, priorities, and a purpose statement from the council. We'll talk about greenways and Parks and Rec needs. We'll talk about sidewalks and street resurfacing. We'll talk about dirt streets and paving and priority of dirt streets, as that seems to be an issue or concern for our existing council. We're going to have an update from the North Carolina League of Municipalities, just so the council knows that we are part of a larger organization across the state. We're going to have our school superintendent, Dr. Dunsmore, come in and spend an hour with the council and just sort of tell him what his strategic plan is and how it really affects the schools in the Goldsboro area. Again, we're concerned about all Wayne County schools, but in particular, we're concerned about those that serve the Goldsboro community. So we'll hear more from him. We've got a gentleman coming in to talk about our technology, and one we've talked about over time, Shot Spotter for the police department, and technology that when a gunshot is fired, we will know the location of that in a very short time, I mean, a matter of seconds, and the department can use that for investigating or responding. And again, more to come on that, but that presentation will be as part of our retreat, as well as our annual crime statistics and what 2015 actually looked like. We've got a group coming in to talk about housing in the community. We've got a gentleman with DOT coming to talk about maybe Union Station and some opportunities there. And again, we have an outside consultant coming in to talk about our financial and debt profile and how Goldsboro is really functioning compared to other cities across the state. And then we'll talk about more demolition, some technology issues, our federal and state legislative agendas, and revenue sources and options for the council to consider in the coming year. So again, that's at least a rough version of our draft agenda that will be finalized in the coming weeks and then published ahead of the council retreat toward the end of February. Council also, from the department head standpoint, they are working on their budget requests for our fiscal year, which begins July 1st, 2016 and run through June 30th, 2017. So department are assembling the budget requests. They'll come into our finance department over the next month. Finance director and I and department heads will sit down through the month of really March and April with the goal of having a draft budget to the City Council in May. That will give the council 2 months to consider, and I hope is that they'll have some meetings through May to discuss the budget, understand what's there, make adjustments as needed, with the goal of holding a public hearing in early June and possibly adopting the budget in early June. So again, if they need the full month of June, they could take that, but our hope and practice has been in past years to have most of the council interaction through the month of May, public hearing, and then adoption in June. So more to come on that. And I will share that we get an audit once a year of our finances. It takes really about 4 to 6 months to have the audit. So as of June 30th last year, the council did receive the audit from our CPA, sharing the city's financial condition, and again, they heard that in January. Overall, the city's financial condition is improving, and in my opinion, very good. A year ago, we talked about fund balance, or the city's savings within the general fund, being somewhere in the $3 million range. That number has moved to above $6.5 million, and there are a lot of reasons for that we would be happy to explain with anybody that has of interest. But at least want to share that savings is important to maintain, and again, having an increase in that, a significant increase, bodes well for the city in terms of its finances and how we're spending money, as well as the revenues that are coming in, and how we're accounting for that. So just want to share that I do think we had a very favorable audit opinion, and again, that was shared with council in their January meeting. Many activities and events throughout the community. I would encourage you to look at our websites, Parks and Rec, the Paramount Theater, our DGDC, or Downtown Development website. I know from Parks and Rec, they're talking about a day ski trip. They're talking about an overnight canoe trip on, I think, the Roanoke River. We're talking about a shad tournament coming up here locally. A lot of adult sports, a number of youth sports. Their website is constantly changing and updating what's coming, but I would encourage you, if you want to find something to do, it probably is here, and I would encourage you to get involved and be part of that. So if you can't find it on the websites, call us. Call our Parks and Rec department, call my office. We're happy to talk with you about that and try to get you plugged in to where it works for you. Again, as always, we're here to serve. Our website offers a lot of information. You can email us most anytime, or call us, talk to us, or leave a message. We're happy to be of service to you. My number is always 919-580-4330. Again, 919-580-4330. If we can be of service to you, please call on us. Thank you.